Yeah, then share it. Invite your friends and your not so friendly friends and tell them to join us. Maiyegun is live. And tonight, we are starting from the report submitted by Riley Moore, the American congressman appointed by the president of the United States when he redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern last year, October. Now, that announcement also prompted this appointment prompted Riley to visit Nigeria, the middle belt part of Nigeria, met with the victims of the Christian genocide, the Fulani attacks in that part of Nigeria. And they have also held series of, congressional hearings on this same matter. And the last 3 months, Riley and his own group said they have gathered all they needed and they are now ready, right, to submit this report to the US government. That was a few hours ago, but it's been submitted now, I believe. But the content of their report, or the highlight of their report, is also very much published for everyone to see, where they have started making some demands in curbing the Islamist jihadists spreading in Nigeria. Now, most of their recommendations, or most of his committee's recommendations to Trump, have started generating their own, dust right now in Nigeria. So tonight, I will probably go through that with all of us, and then we go to other stuffs too, where Peter Obi narrowly escaped assassination in the hands of the Okweodoyo of Edo State, the APC thugs in Edo State, who attempted to take his life and the life of those around him today. But yeah, that happened. We're going to get to that part. But let's start with Riley, whose report I will be reading, all right? Because this is not the comprehensive report, okay? But this will give you an idea of what Donald Trump is expected to act on in the coming days, weeks, or whatever you, and also the Nigerian government under Tifnumbu. You see, a lot of the Ronukus have been consoling themselves, telling themselves that Tifnumbu has handled the Donald Trump's bully, right? That Tifnumbu has handled it with so much, like, kind of like a boss, sort of. Like he's been able to handle that so well, right? That what people expected from Trump to actually do with Nigeria when the situation was very much like hot. It didn't happen. Rather, behind the scene, Tifnumbu, who appointed Dereba Dump to be the intermediary after sending him to Washington in November. And since then, they've actually given the Americans everything they wanted. Literally everything. But right now, it seems that this line is also going to put to test how much Tifnumbu is willing to give away, and how much of that is even in his control. Because from their reports, they are demanding that Sharia must end all over Nigeria. That's something that, you know what? Let's read in part what he submitted to Trump. So here, it said, the ending the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Riley Moore. The United States Congress commends President Trump for his decisive action to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC, to hold perpetrators of violence to account and compel the government of Nigeria to protect vulnerable communities and end religious persecution. The president called on Congressman Riley Moore, Chairman Tom Cole, and the House Appropriations Committee to investigate and produce a report on the persecution and slaughter of Nigerian Christians. To examine the facts, Appropriations Vice Chair Mario Diaz-Balart hosted an investigative roundtable and led a congressional delegation to Nigeria, and House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Mars and Africa Subcommittee Chairman Chris Smith held a hearing to gather evidence from government and civil society witnesses. The close collaboration culminated in the following recommendations, their findings. After decades of persecution, Nigeria is the deadliest place in the world to be a Christian. Christians are subject to ongoing violence attacks from well-armed Fulani militias and terrorist groups, resulting in the death and murder of tens of thousands of Christians, including pastors and priests, the destruction of thousands of churches and schools, as well as kidnappings. Blasphemy law in Nigeria's northern state are used to silence speech and dissent, target Christians and minorities, and justify so-called convictions without due process. President Trump's bold action and attention from Congress has created a once-in-a-generation opportunity for real change to address this 2 decades-long crisis. Although the government of Nigeria is a key partner for the United States, such government must demonstrate the political will, including by allocating their own financial resources to immediately reduce and then eliminate the violence. The United States and Nigeria should take this moment to redefine a new strategic partnership to make America and Nigeria safer, stronger, and more prosperous. Their recommendations. One sec. Right. Recommendations. Strike a bilateral agreement between United States and the government of Nigeria to protect vulnerable Christian communities from violent persecution, eliminate jihadist terror activity in the region, further economic cooperation, and counter adversaries in the region, including the Chinese Communist Party and Russian Federation. Such an agreement should include, this is their recommendations, right? They want America to be the main partner of Nigeria and whoever America chooses, all right? This is their recommendations, that Nigeria must stop dealing with Chinese and Russians. Let's continue. So they said commitments, which include, right, should include commitment by the government of Nigeria to 1. Co-fund donor-supported humanitarian assistance, including through faith-based organizations, and to prioritize underserved communities of internally displaced persons, IDPs, and their host communities, especially in the predominantly Christian Middle Belt region. Support and respond to early warning mechanism to prevent attacks and kidnappings, including by deploying sufficient and capable security forces to the Middle Belt to enable rapid and effective response, and hold those who ignore the warnings accountable. Remove Fulani militias from confiscated, productive farmland and enable the voluntary return of displaced communities to their homes, including by ensuring security and infrastructure, thereby reducing the need for humanitarian aid and generating economic development through increased agricultural productivity. That's the first part. But there is more. From Riley Moore. They want Nigeria to stop the Chinese, because you see, the middle belt part of Nigeria, northern part of Nigeria, which have seen serious and continue to see serious violence from these extremists as well as the terrorists. This area, these regions, right, they are also so rich in minerals and the natural resources. They call them the rare earth minerals, right? And guess what? A lot of interest groups sponsored by different countries are operating in this part of the, terror infested area. But they won't leave. We have had evidence of Chinese, mining in different parts of northern Nigeria, mostly the areas occupied by these terrorists, no-go areas, ungoverned areas, right? I don't know that of Russians. Russians are not extracting anything in Nigeria that is publicly known. or maybe Americans are not too, except recently, last year, when Tifnumbu signed this memorandum of MOU with France to allow France to have access to the rare earth minerals in Nigeria. That one is ongoing. So, Chinese, I don't know, maybe the Americans have an intel that the Chinese are somehow also fueling the terrorism in that part of Nigeria. So they want Nigeria to cut them off. I don't know how that's going to happen, right? They want Sharia law to end, blaspheming law to end. This is the other part. They said, continue and expand security cooperation with the United States, including by the divestment of Russian military equipment for American military equipment through sales and financing. Technical support to the government of Nigeria to reduce and then eliminate violence from armed Fulani militias, including by developing a demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration program to address illicit weapons and support safer communities while allowing farmers to engage in legitimate self-defense. You see that part? I've said something on that before. There is a plan that the American delegation are pushing with the NSA, Rebadom. That is to give the Middle Belt part of Nigeria a special kind of like a U.S. military protection that is going to be, approved by Nigerian government. And part of that idea is to ensure that you see areas where the Fulani terrorists have taken over in the Middle Belt part of Nigeria, right? The deal is to get rid of all of them from all of those communities and then return those who have been chased away into the IDP camps, return them back to these communities. And not just return them back. No, there will be a special security arrangement whereby an average Middle Beltan will be allowed to carry American weapons in self-defense, for self-defense. You'll be seeing farmers in Benue, farmers in Taraba, farmers in Plateau State, okay, farmers in Kwara, farmers in Kogi, all this central area, middle belt part of Nigeria, right? They would have this different kind of like a security arrangement than the rest of Nigeria. I don't know if they're going to do it, but it is in that report. Let's continue. So here, so for self-defense, right? They said, and then supporting the new Ministry of Livestock, ranching plans, and meaningful land reforms efforts. So enhancing the recruitment, technical capabilities, and willingness of the security forces and military to prevent and respond to violent attacks. Comprehensive counterterrorism cooperation to rid the region of foreign terrorists organizations that pose a direct threat to the American homeland, including through the provision of excess defense equipment and use of relevant drawdown authorities. Counteract the hostile foreign exploitation of Chinese illegal mining operations and their destabilizing practice of paying protection money to Fulani terrorists. See what I said? I haven't even seen this part when I said that. So America is practically trying to tell Nigeria that China is also funding terrorism in Nigeria through their illegal mining. I don't think that's news. Is that news to you? No? All right, let's continue. So, then also for Nigeria said to implement the National Security Department of State and related Programs Appropriation Act 2026 to support the preceding recommendations and the following priorities. One, increased accountability by requiring proof of progress before obligating additional funds. Programs to address religious freedom, atrocity response, legal reforms, expand and improve policing, strengthen the criminal justice sector, improve anti-money laundering method, and enhance capabilities to disrupt terrorist financing networks, as well as capture illicit monies from Fulani militias members. Treasury Department programs and activities to strengthen the integrity of Nigeria's financial system, which will safeguard U.S. national security and enhance the favorable balance of trade for the United States. United States Development Finance Cooperation investment in Nigeria, especially in the Middle Belt, right? So they want to change not just security of the Middle Belt, they also want to change the economy of the Middle Belt. It's part of their proposal. GAO audit report on the effectiveness of aid to Nigeria and recommendations for strengthened oversight. Also, to invoke and publicly announce the CPC presidential directives to name and shame perpetrators of violence, implement sanctions on groups and individuals who participate in or tolerate violence against Christians, continue visa restrictions for perpetrators involved in Christian violence and violations of religious freedom, demand the repeal of Sharia codes and criminal anti-blasphemy laws. So they are asking American government to pressure Tinubu now to make sure that the Sharia ends in Nigeria. Would that not be the end of Nigeria now? Okay. Also, to review and use points of leverage to compel Fulani herdsmen to disarm, including by blocking export of beef and other cattle-related products to countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, South Africa, and Senegal. So they want to ban the export of the beef from Nigeria as part of the sanctions. They are proposing that in order to disarm the Fulani terrorists. Ensure adequate staffing of diplomatic posts in Nigeria. This is their own now, protecting themselves against any other, backlash. Improve the foreign military sales process to expedite the procurement and delivery of a defense articles and services necessary to support shared security priorities. Require a national intelligence estimate, NIE, on Nigeria's sectarian and communal violence, and review classifying Fulani militia groups with links to terror groups, as well as other groups conducting organized campaign of violence that threaten the United States as a foreign terrorist organization. Enlist the support of international partners, including France, Hungary, and United Kingdom. Okay, so that's those are the recommendations of Riley to Donald Trump. There are so many things that is actually going on in the United States concerning these killings in Nigeria. You still have the Ted Cruz team too. Theirs is also to ensure that this issue of a blasphemy, Sharia, should completely be decodified. Like it should completely be removed from Nigerian constitution and law and all of that. So that is what will now get the Islamic North, okay, to possibly begin to consider having their own Arewanistan. If that by any means is succumbed to by Tinubu, because like I said, out there, they are pretending that they are not responding to Trump. Initially, when they were spending money, sending everybody around to do propaganda that there is no Christian genocide in the Middle Belt part of Nigeria, right? Tinubu himself kept mute. But behind the scene, right, they were sending delegations after delegations to America, and Americans were also sending their own delegation to Nigeria. So their meetings and all of that is centered on neutralizing the Fulani terrorists in Nigeria and their sponsor. So the ball is now in the court of Donald Trump, I think. Here is what Riley also put out after submitting the report, meeting with the White House, staff. Here is what he put. I said, following today's productive meeting at the White House, I want to thank President Trump for redesignating Nigeria as this, okay? So he said, particular concern for his administration's commitment to protecting our brothers and sisters in Christ from persecution and addressing the broader security challenges plaguing Nigeria. Since President Trump redesignated Nigeria as a CPC and tasked me to lead congressional investigation I have worked diligently with my colleagues to produce the report we presented today. I also want to thank House Appropriation Committee Chairman Tom Cole, Vice Chair Mario Diaz-Balart, Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Most, and Congressman Chris Smith for their leadership on this comprehensive investigation.